Hello. Today, I want to talk about my favorite reads of 2020 and my least favorite one, but not much because I didn't like that one. So it is almost 2021, you guys. I am ready for a clean reading slate because, as you know, 2020 was a little rough for everybody, but especially for my reading. Think of my reading, guys. Come on, don't be selfish. Oh, also, disclosure, I am going to put some of my favorite Discworld books by themselves at the end because they're different categories. I just thought that having them by themselves made more sense to me. Okay, so let's start with my top 3 favorite reads of this year. I don't think any of them were actually new releases this year. Let's see. No, not a single one. My least favorite read, however, was a 2020 release. So, you hooked yet? I actually took a minute to update my Goodreads. I'm really bad at Goodreads. But if you want to see the competition that these books had, you can follow me over there. Is that even how Goodreads works? I have no idea. I also feel like I should tell you that I am filming this December 22nd. So I currently have 4 books on the go, but as of this date, when I am filming this, I have read 60 books for the year out of my goal of 50 books. So thank you. Not my worst year, not my best year, but honestly, it's a good year. A lot of stuff happened this year, guys. So it was busy. I'm happy with 60. I will take it. And unfortunately, 2 of the books I am currently reading, I absolutely think could have been my favorite reads of the year. So quickly, I am reading Hogfather. It's a Discworld book. It's a death book. It's been so good, but I couldn't finish it in time. I wasn't fast enough. And The Devil and the Dark Water. Oh, guys, I am loving this book. I am only halfway through because reading is hard and I am slow. But it's been fantastic. It's got all of those Agatha Christie vibes I was hoping for. And I am loving it just the way that I loved his first book. So, yeah, I wish I could include it in this list, but I'm not done. So what if the ending sucks? Okay, on to the real list. Okay, this was actually really, really hard to narrow down to 3. So I'm going to do 3 and then 2 honorable mentions. Because, shut up. It's not cheating if I make the rules. Number 1, I am sure surprising nobody, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I loved this book. It is historical fiction told from the point of view of Patroclus, Achilles' best friend. He's his lover. It is set before and during the Trojan War, so it's the story of Achilles, but told just very differently and beautifully. I don't usually like romance, but this was so well done. And Madeline Miller is such an incredible storyteller. It's got everything. It's got gods. It's got mortals. It's got love. It's got war. It really was fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough. Number 2, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This was the first book I picked up and really fell into after having my daughter earlier this year. And I am telling you, nothing disturbs your reading life quite like a newborn. So for me too, it had that great feeling of getting back into the swing of things. As far as my reading life goes, this is a mystery told in such a unique way. I could not help but love it. How to even? This guy wakes up in the forest and he doesn't know who he is, where he is, what's going on. And he just gets up, he goes to this big spooky house, those gothic vibes. And so he lives this whole day, and then he wakes up the next day at as somebody else. So the idea is he has to solve this murder, but every day he lives the same day over again, but from somebody else's perspective. And not just their perspective, he is that person for the day. So he makes their choices and their moves, and it is told in such an interesting way. I could not put it down. I loved it. Oh, and super cool, there is only one ticket out of this time loop, but there are 3 players. So there was that added element. It was so good. And number 3, A Man Called Uve. I say Uve because I listened to the audiobook. Lots of people say Ove. That's okay too. But I believe it is actually Uve. This book was hilarious and devastating and heartwarming. I adored the protagonist, Uve. He is an old man, which is not typically the front man in a lot of stories. So having a different kind of protagonist was refreshing and fun. The premise of the book is that Uve has lost his wife, his job, and his youth, so he's decided to kill himself. Wait, don't go, I swear. It's actually very funny. So the problem is that Uve's idiot neighbors all keep needing his help and interrupting him while he's trying to get this job done. And woven throughout the story is Uve's history, and it is both heartwarming and heartbreaking. This ends up being a story of found family, and it's just 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. So quickly, my 2 honorable mentions are ones that, not a lot of you guys are going to have read, but I really, really enjoyed this year. Number 1 is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. Do not be fooled by this cover. It is actually quite good. It is a YA fantasy retelling of Beauty and the Beast. This is actually the sequel. And for somebody who doesn't really like YA very often, I really, really like these books, and I am so excited for the 3rd one. It was great, and it was one of those rare situations where the 2nd one is better than the 1st one. And the next one is War Crimes. This is a World of Warcraft book, so I will not spend too much time boring most of you to death. But I thought this book was going to be super dumb because the premise is super dumb. But it was really good. It's a Warcraft universe courtroom drama. I know. But it was actually super, super fun, and I loved it. It was amazing on audio. And while it's not my favorite Warcraft book, that honor still goes to Arthas. It is way up there. It's a close second. And now, the worst book I read this year. This is actually an unpopular opinion, but it was My Dark Vanessa. I hated this book. I don't care how well written it was. I hated every second that I was reading it, and if it hadn't been a book club book, I wouldn't have finished it. It felt gross to read, and I know, yeah, obviously, but yeah, it's just a book I don't feel I needed in my eyeballs. I guess it turns out pedophiles just aren't in my reading wheelhouse. I know. Who knew? And now, quickly, since Discworld has been such a huge part of my reading year, 13 out of the 60 books I read this year were Discworld novels. I just wanted to quickly tell you guys my top 3 and my bottom 1 of that series. Men at Arms. This is a City Watch book. I loved it. I hugged it when I was done because it was everything I wanted it to be. Number 2, Mort. This is one of the death novels, and I can't help but love Death. He's such a fantastic character. Like I said earlier, I am reading Hogfather right now, and that is a shoo-in for one of my favorites. But I'm not done, so I'm not counting it. But yeah, Mort was my first introduction to Death, not as a character because he's in all of the books, but as like one of the more main characters. And it was really, really good and really, really funny. And 3rd, Night Watch. This is another City Watch book, and it did a bunch of weird time stuff. It had one of our main characters dealing with stuff like parenthood and responsibility, and it just, I don't know, it was one of the more relatable ones, so I loved it. And my least favorite Discworld was Pyramids. I mean, it wasn't a bad book, it just, as far as the Discworld universe goes, it wasn't my favorite. Maybe because it doesn't have anything or anyone that I really care about up to this point. Yeah, it was funny and it was fine, but it hasn't stuck with me like the other ones. And okay, that's it. Let me know what you thought of my picks and let me know what yours are. What were your favorite reads of 2020? What were your least favorite reads? Leave them in the comments so we can talk about them. I am ready for 2021. Thank you guys for making this year super fun, and I am so excited to keep doing this next year. I've got some new big things coming that I am excited to announce. And yeah, thanks guys. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye. It's got everything. What's it got? I forgot the baby monitor was on. Y'all don't need to hear my son selling pretend ice cream. I have a toilet that just flushes. I always want to yell at my husband and be like, why are you doing this to me? But I know he's not doing it. It's just the ghost.